mystery. Sometimes I'm free, depending on my mood or my attitude.
Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you might be joining us from in the world today. My name is Meg Alexander. I am, as always, honored and excited to get to host another Power to Fly Chat and Learn virtual event. Now, today we're going to be talking about cracking the code, AI and ATS secrets for job search success. I think that y'all are definitely not by yourselves. Job hunting is a situation that can be very isolating. So I'm glad that y'all came to join us today for this event. Before we go into our event today and I introduce you to our speaker, I just want to real quick flash our code of conduct up on the screen there. This looks like a big scary wall of legalese, but truly, y'all, when it boils down to it, it basically just means don't be a jerk. Okay, try to make sure that we are, operating from a place of kindness and and respect. And it's pretty hard to go wrong from there. If you want have further questions on this, or you want some additional details on this, or any of our code of conduct stuff, please feel free to let me know. You can always chime in and DM me. You'll find my name, Meg Alexander, in the drop down. Now, I'm very excited to get us started. This is going to be just some real quick housekeeping. All of this will be pretty old hat if you've attended any other Power to Fly event before. But if this is your first event, then hi, welcome. We're so happy to meet you. Now, the love is no less real for my frequent flyers. Like I said, if you are a frequent flyer here with us, I love seeing our familiar names and faces and avatars in the chat. So thank you to all of you for joining us today. Now, as we go through today's event, I just want to encourage y'all to participate in any way you would like. You are always encouraged to participate with Power to Fly events, and you can do that in a couple different ways. You're always welcome to turn your cameras on if you'd like. There's no pressure, y'all. You don't need to be Instagram perfect. I am on day, let's go with 4 of the dry shampoo messy bun saga. Let's just say that's solidly where we are. So all of that to mean that we don't care if you're coming to us from a corner office or your living room couch. You can be in a 3-piece suit or a bathrobe. It makes no difference to us. Do not stand on ceremony. We just want you to join us, and so we can meet you where you are. Now, if you want to participate, but you don't want to do so with your camera, that is fine. You do not have to. You are always, always welcome to chime in the chat. In fact, I encourage y'all to join in there and jump in there as we go. Please feel free to navigate with your fellow attendees, network. Just like I said, as always, make sure that we lead from a place of kindness and respect. If you got questions on that, please feel free to let me know. Now, if you have questions, please, I really encourage you to put them into the chat. And in fact, I'm going to encourage y'all to jump in the chat right now. Let me bring my chat up here. I'm going to start sharing links in the chat thread as we go. Rhea, my trusty sidekick, is gone today. So give me a little bit of grace here. We're going to be a little bit shorthanded, but I'm going to start sending in links in the chat to kind of illustrate all of this for you. Now, before we do, to encourage y'all to join in, make sure you head over into that chat and let us know where you're joining us from. I'm always really eager to see how far our global audience spreads. So please feel free to jump into that chat and let us know where you're joining from. You're also always welcome to share if you know whose land you're on. I'm coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. This is land that belongs to the Fox, Kickapoo, and Potawatomi tribes in my area. So if you know whose land you're on, please feel free to share with us. Now, the last thing I want to encourage y'all to, or let y'all know in case you didn't know, is that we are recording as well as broadcasting to YouTube right now. Hi, YouTube. And all of this to tell you that during today's event, you don't have to take notes. You just get to sit back, relax, enjoy the conversation that I'm about to have with Rachel, and not worry if you missed out on a resource that's mentioned or a link that's shared. We'll send all of this out to you in the coming days. I do want to take a real quick moment here to say hey to everybody who's chiming in the chat. Oh my gosh, y'all. We've got Valerie chiming in from Seattle, land of the Duwamish. Thank you, Valerie. Diana is coming to us from Hyogo, Japan. Sophia is in New York City. We've got Elysia in Phoenix, Arizona. We've got Catherine in Vancouver, Diana in Chicago, Tabshish in Dubai, Kay Martz in Santa Monica. Oh my gosh, Herndon, Virginia, Vancouver, New York, Tacoma, North Carolina, Cypress, Texas. Yo, I'm loving this. Thank you. Thank you so much for chiming in. Tacoma landed the pulley up in Nisqually. Thank you so much, Yolanda. All right, now, as we go on into our upcoming discussion, in case you've never heard from Rachel Serwetz before, I'm going to let her introduce herself in a moment. But before we do, I want to first include you and let y'all know about WOKEN. Now, Woken is an amazing, amazing resource. Rachel is unbelievable. I can't wait for y'all to meet her. But Woken is this really great organization that she started from scratch to clarify and pursue your optimal career path. Now, Rachel's going to share some really amazing things with us. If anything that you're hearing from her sparks your interest, I very much encourage you. I'm going to share some links in the chat thread of searches of powertofly.com so you can watch other chats that Rachel has done with us. Not all with me, I promise. But truly, there's some really amazing lessons to be learned from this. And if you're anything like me, no matter how many times you hear Rachel speak, you always learn something new. So I'm very, very excited to dive in and kind of cue you all into this amazing thing that is Woken, courtesy of Rachel Serwetz. Now, Rachel is the CEO, founder, and career coach at Woken. Her early professional experience was at Goldman Sachs in operations, as well as at Bridgewater and Associates in HR. Now, from there, Rachel was trained as a coach at NYU and became a certified coach through the International Coach Federation. Now, after this, she still worked in HR research at Aon Hewitt, as well as, and then attained her technology MBA at NYU Stern. Now, throughout her career, Rachel has helped hundreds of professionals with career exploration. And for the last 7 years, she's been building her company, Woken, which is an online career exploration platform to coach professionals through the process of clarifying their ideal job and career path. Now, Rachel has served as an adjunct professor of entrepreneurship at Binghamton University, as a career coach through the Flatiron School and WeWork at Columbia University, as well as Project Activate. Now, if you want more information about Woken, you can find it from their website. I'm also going to share a bunch of links in the chat thread as we go. But very, very excited to introduce y'all to Rachel and really share her genius with the rest of y'all. So, Rachel, before we dive in on any questions, what should our audience know about you today?
I think you covered a good amount. But yeah, no, I'm happy to just kind of dive into job search. But just know I'm here, and I know today's short, but please connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can always continue the conversation that way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now just a real quick refresher to everybody in case anybody is unaware. We've got Rachel's going to show some slides and then we're going to have some questions. But all of this to say, if you came here to spend time with us live, we want to make sure we reward you for that. So if you've got questions that you want asked of Rachel, send those in the group chat, like as soon as you can. Ask early, ask often. That is the best chance to get your question addressed today. But like I said, ask early, ask often. I'll be grabbing all the questions that are asked. We'll try to get to as many as we can before I run out of time today. So, Rachel, the floor is yours. I'm very excited to let you sit back and take over.
All right, sounds good. I am going to try to not go too quickly, but there's a lot here and we have limited time, so I might go a little quickly. So you already know my background. Okay, so what is ATS? What is AI as it relates to job search? ATS is an applicant tracking system. It is software that helps companies to manage their hiring process. They are trying to save time, they're trying to manage high volumes, and they're trying to be compliant. So this is across all companies now are using this. You see it in large companies, you see it in mid-size, and some smaller companies a little bit as well. In terms of AI, there's AI in assessing resumes and sort of filtering and prioritizing resumes. There's even interview assessments with AI tools. And of course, there's some chatbots. So AI is a bit of a more broader use case, and ATS is the tool and the system that is being used, essentially connected to those job applications. What is on the reverse side when the hiring managers and recruiters are looking at it? That's what that ATS is doing. It's analyzing those applications. So how do we optimize for it? So of course there's keywords and skills matching, and then there's formatting. So yes, you want those relevant keywords, right? And you want to match the job criteria. We're going to get through some of the myths here, but it doesn't have to necessarily be a copy paste. So I personally don't think it's worth, word stuffing and just copy pasting. But, if you say account management and they're looking for client management, usually it understands things that kind of mean the same thing. So in general, again, I don't really think you have to have exactly the same copy pastable phrases, but largely you want to make sure that your resume is saying the things that this job description is looking for, right? And in general, we think about that. It makes sense. They're looking for a fit. So, part of this, by the way, is really thinking about which job should I apply to that I am a fit for, right? It's one thing to just kind of tailor your resume. It's another to ask yourself, where do I align, right? And what makes sense for me, right? Versus just sometimes I just want people to be wary of, like, sometimes we get a little too much into shape shifting, our documents, right? Formatting. So it's going to categorize the information. So make sure you have clear sections, work experience, skills, education. Be wary of any weird fonts, columns, and tables. I would avoid columns and tables. I think sometimes people have like a left-hand side and a right-hand side. I usually just make all the information across the page from left to right. So I avoid columns, avoid tables. So scoring, right? It is going to kind of give a ranking to your resume. And there are sometimes when we get those like quick rejections where it may have requirements that are ruling things out, immediately. And then there's beyond that, there's more of just this filtering prioritization type system, where it's looking at, best matches. These are just the names of some of those common systems. Um, and what are those best practices that we're talking about? So using standard fonts, using simple formatting, using industry specific keywords, and avoiding tables and text boxes like we've mentioned. So again, what are you focusing on? Relevant keywords that align your experience to the job description, highlighting qualifications. So again, with hard filters, there are some times where, if you're being ruled out immediately, they may look for a certain education or certifications. They may look for years of experience. They may look for past job titles. Those are some of those like early, filters that it may look at immediately. And then after that, it's looking at the rest of your resume to sort of rank you. But those are some of those like first things that may sort of rule somebody out. Again, avoiding crazy formatting and really just considering which roles make the most sense for you to apply to is something to keep in mind. And we're hoping that recruiters are setting thoughtful filters that make sense and even reviewing those who are not qualified so that they can see if their system is working or not working, and just remembering that tech is just a piece of the puzzle. So just both sides of the coin should be thoughtful about the tools and the processes. So what about AI? AI is helpful to figure out what keywords to be including. And I would just be wary and not have it write materials for you, but have it help you get unstuck when you're figuring out which keywords to use or how to phrase things. But just, I would always read it back and make it sound like you, but understand, what words to focus on. AI is also really helpful to assess your fit. You could put your resume and you could put in a job description and figure out like, how well do I align with this? How close am I a match? Is there a way I can improve my resume to show a better match? Or are there other roles that inherently are a better fit for me that I should go look for? There are tools that will apply to jobs for you with AI, but I've never really heard of that working super successfully necessarily. So again, I would use AI in ways that, you can take advantage of. Identifying gaps, right? So what else should I be highlighting that will help me stand out for my target path? Even networking AI, can help you when you're writing emails. But that being said, you still want to look at your, the LinkedIn profile of whoever you're connecting with and try to customize and try to get to know them and figure out why they'd be helpful to you. But, if you're stuck in how to write your outreach, this is one place that, and when I say AI, I'm referring to like the chat GPTs of the world, Claude, whatever bot you're using. These are some different ways that AI can be helpful. Researching target organizations, right? Because you don't just want to look at job boards and see what's open. You want to go out there and find target orgs that align with you and find people that align with your areas of, your work focus and, see how you can get your foot in the door. And what else? Researching industry groups, meetups, associations, and events. So again, expand your horizons. Don't just focus on those online job boards, but really use AI tools to see, how do I get into this field? What else should I be involved with? What else, is actively, maybe a membership I can be a part of? Where are people showing up in this sector? Interview prep is another great way, to leverage AI. Coming up with the questions you might be asked in an interview based on the job posting is an amazing way, to leverage these different bots. And even video tools where you can talk out loud and say, here's my answer. You're literally practicing your interview responses, and it's really giving you a lot of feedback. So I love those types of tools. And just reflecting, right? You can leverage AI as a bit of a coach in the sense of like, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm stressed out about, or here's what I'm not doing, and see if it can help you improve your approach. So this is another good way to synthesize, how am I doing in job search and how can I improve? And again, networking, again, brainstorming. Is there different ways, different types of people, different ways to reach out, different ways to make connections? So there's so many things to think about with job search, and AI really can be a partner to you, in that journey to think through all of these things. Again, I would be wary of what you're allowing it to do for you, if it's writing your resume versus is it, giving you ideas, right? So just be wary about how it plays in, and how to leverage it. These are some of the very many tools. There's resume tools, there's cover letter writing tools, just job search assistance in general, interview tools, and we even have our own career coach chatbot. Feel free to take down the link there. I should have given you that link, Meg. But yeah, this is a version of, instead of just ChatGPT, it's sort of like, a coach's knowledge behind the scenes. And Udly is another tool that I love for video interview prep as well. So the thing about tools is just be wary, right? Like, some of these tools are great, but if you start feeling like you're taking 10 hours on a resume editing tool, like, is that worth your full day's time? So just really think about how you're incorporating all of this into your process. And, maybe resume you work on 30 minutes or an hour a day. Again, that depends if you have your full day available to you to work on job search, but just be wary, because some of these things, they might give you so much feedback. It might be overly complicated. It might take a ton of time. So just be wary. There's more to job search to think about, including networking. So just, it's a piece of the puzzle. I think that's a big part of it. I know you all were hooked by the title of this event and this workshop, AI and ATS. It's so important, but at the same time, it shouldn't take over. You're still a human, and a human is going to hire you. So just don't forget to make those connections as much as you can. Feel free to come back to this later. There's a lot of prompts here. But the whole idea with AI is that, you can do so much. You can reflect on rejections. You can get organized and figure out your accountability plan for job search, assess job fit, and explore or understand other roles and what you're a fit for. Checking your resume formatting, thinking about just personal branding and, LinkedIn improvements, interview prep, email writing, cover letters. These are some of the many, many ways you can use a bot of some sort to help you with your job search. So this is one of my many concepts. It's called the powerhouse resume. So this is, I think a lot of people edit their resume to every single job application. Personally, I like to just keep a running list of all the keywords I'm seeing in the job postings that I am targeting. And then eventually you have this one resume that has every keyword it's ever going to need. Because if you're changing your resume every single time, these job descriptions probably vary so slightly. So it's like, what's the point really to, just sort of have those slight variations? But if you end up with a powerhouse resume that has the top 20 to 30 keywords that align with your target direction, then you won't have to tailor it so much every single time. So just think about how you're periodically, incrementally improving your materials versus just redoing it constantly, because the resume, it's a living, breathing thing. You can constantly edit it, but you might be reworking things or saying something in a sort of equal way, and you're sort of replacing words versus just adding value every single time, right? So just think about the time suck again of tailoring every single resume to every application. Another key piece about AI is incorporating it into your background. So if you're going into marketing or whatever function you're going into, make sure you're learning and using AI tools for your function and add that to your resume. Are you taking a course or a certification, or what AI tools are you learning that actually relate to your target path and your role and your function? And they're going to see that you're, a standout candidate that way. So don't forget to actually incorporate it into your upskilling efforts as well. And just don't forget, humans are the key. So, whether it's branding, networking, or just your overall job search strategy, relationships are still number one. So, meet people in your target roles, meet people in your target companies, and use AI when it can help you be efficient, or figuring out who and what to target. That's fine. But it's sort of a complement to enhance your process and not replace all of your efforts. So that is my very quick way of going through all these best practices. I think we do have time for questions. I tried to race through this. Um, and yeah, would love to take some questions, and we'll make sure you have all these links so you can stay in touch with us as well. But yeah, Meg, let me know where to start.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some really, really great questions up here. So as I'm grabbing them from the chat, keep sending them in if you've got them. We're going to start from the top. Um, all right. So the first question we got, what can you do if you're trying to pivot and your past role titles might not be a good match? I've had this
Yes.
question a lot.
It's an amazing question. So when you're pivoting, there's a few things you can do. So on your LinkedIn or even on your resume, you kind of want to do this like functional resume. So maybe you really want to be a project manager, but you were previously a marketing manager. But maybe as part of your marketing experience, you had project management experience. So what you can do, you can imagine a resume where it says marketing manager, but then sort of underneath that, you kind of have this like subcategory for project management, and you can sort of categorize the bullets on the resume into these buckets of skills. So you're actually calling out, these were the 2 or 3 or 4 main skill areas that I had to utilize to be a marketing manager. So transferable skills, these were sub elements of previous roles. So that's one way to do it. The other way is, using like a professional summary. So at the top of your resume or even your LinkedIn about section, really owning that story of your background, your strengths, and your direction, and sort of calling out the relevant transferable skills. Of course, every bullet, as much as humanly possible, you want to try to speak the language of the role you're going after. So again, if you were doing marketing, but you really want to do project management, were you dealing with budgets and vendors and timelines and Gantt charts or whatever it may be? And so really make sure all of those bullets are sort of speaking that language and talking about what you did in the lens of project management. And then calling out those phrases of those skills as much as you can, plus gaining new experiences, right? Maybe you do a pro bono project or courses or certifications or any sort of upskilling efforts where you can actually add experience to your resume that is sort of a portfolio builder to really show that you're doing the work that you want to be doing. And then you can sort of call yourself like, if you do a 3-month side project as a project manager, you're going to be able to add that to your resume, even if it's pro bono, but you'll say, I helped this company. I was in a project management, capacity, and here's what I did. So if you're truly pivoting, sort of taking on things like that is a good way to show that you've done the work, you can do the work. Um, so upskilling and then some branding tricks around it. And then just, yeah, being clear if you're pivoting, like, understanding who typically gets hired into those roles. Sometimes pivoting is like a 2-step process. Maybe you join this team, and once you're on the, at the company, maybe you can do internal mobility. And, if it's sort of a harder path to pursue, that is something you can try to think about is, how do people typically get into that role, right? Just really learning and networking with people in that field is also really important.
Okay. All right. A lot of questions around the ATS. Is there any way to know if you're dealing with a bot or a live person?
Well, it depends in what you're referring to. Like, meaning if you get an email and it's either a rejection, like who was looking at your stuff. I mean, I don't know if that's the interpretation of the question, but
Yeah,
sometimes if
the
you get
question read to me like, how do you know what you're dealing with? And I think the answer is you don't know what you're dealing
Right,
with at
we
this
don't.
point, right?
But this presentation is meant to show you what's happening, which is the tool is assessing things. Um, and then there's people who have to look at the results of those tools. So say the tool is ranking it's what it's doing is ranking and screening, and so it's going to look at those priority and the top, few resumes. So there's still humans there, right? You might um say, okay, here's the top 10 or top 20 or however many, right? Every company's a little different. What do they do with all those results? There's still humans who are going to look at that, but the tool might be that first line of defense. And this, again, these slides were just meant to show you what is the tool going to look at? How do you get past that initial sort of screening? And then the humans are going to look at it, from there.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, this person says, I've seen cases where the ATS does substitute entirely for human judgment, especially as a resume screener. This encourages me to put all the exact keywords from the job requisition in my resume where they're applicable. Is this the wrong approach? We had a lot of people also asking about the like the mega resume, the powerhouse resume, and like wouldn't 30 plus keywords be too dense? So could you talk us through what that looks like?
Well, so it's yes, you still have to work in the keywords naturally. But the whole idea is if these keywords actually do relate to your background, it actually shouldn't be so hard to incorporate them where they fit. But yes, you don't want to make it sound like robotic or sound like it doesn't make sense. Absolutely, do not force it because somebody still has to read this. And by the way, the AI is still reading it to see if it makes sense. Um,
That's the thing, right? That eventually you will get to a person at the end of this. So like fool
absolutely.
the
Don't,
bots all
right.
you want, but eventually you will have to pass an actual person.
Exactly. And even the AI is still reading it and trying to read for quantification and metrics and impact. Like it's still understanding your document. So don't just word stuff it. And so yes, 30 might feel like a lot, but you have to look at your resume and see what does it really mean for you. The reason I say the powerhouse is just because again, I think people spend so much time tailoring the resume to every single application, and that's what we here to do. But personally, I just think about the time sort of lost and wasted in doing that. And oftentimes, sometimes that's just not even enough to get you past. So I'm kind of like, what else can we do to save ourselves time? Have an amazing resume that has the top 10 or 15 keywords it's going to need for your target direction, know what those keywords are, know which roles make the most sense for you, and then spend 90% of your time networking, right? So this is just what to be wary of. These tools are important to understand and, know how to optimize, but there's a lot of other pieces that are going to get you, your foot in the door when you join events and groups and you do one-on-one informational coffee chats. Like there's so many other important ways to be getting yourself out there and getting your foot in the door.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. All right. Should you indicate a career break in your resume or in your cover letter? Some say that putting it in the resume eliminates you immediately from the process, as there's no story that goes with it, especially when applying to non-return to work programs or regular job postings. This, I think, is going to be a personal choice, but what do you say?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think on LinkedIn, it's kind of like a waste of the space because it only shows so many experiences before you have to hit see more. So
Mhm.
personally, I'd rather use that space to just show the jobs that you've had. If they're studying those dates, again, I actually think that's part of the conversation. You're gonna network or interview and they may say, "Oh, what did you do between here and here?" And you're gonna explain that. And as long as you have a reasonable story for what you were doing, they're looking to see, did you leave your last job, in some rash kind of way? Was there some issue or performance or something like that? But if it wasn't anything like that and there was some reasonable personal thing you were doing or whatever it is, that's all they're looking for. Just some, you're rational and we can get to know you and understand how you make decisions and understand your journey, things like that. So I don't think it's like worth the space unless, if you really were upskilling, like that could be sometimes with career pivoters, they might have taken 6 months or however long to do a course or do a certification or do a boot camp, something like that, I think could be absolutely worth putting there. And on the resume too, I think um, it's a dicey one, but I don't know if it's super necessary and adding value versus just like, here's my story, focus on my skills, focus on my summary, focus on my impact, and like I'll tell you the rest when we talk, unless if it was a long break, if you want to explain it, if yeah, I would say if it was super long or if you were doing like a lot of upskilling, there could be reasons why it makes sense. So probably just get someone else's perspective if you're not sure. Talk to a coach, a mentor, a peer, and just say, like, for this situation, do you think it makes sense? But usually I say let them focus on the skills and you know what I mean? And versus
Well, and if
judging all the other
this
stuff.
question is coming from somebody who maybe hasn't had to look for work since prior to the pandemic, it is really easy to carry pre-pandemic stuff into now, which is not pre-pandemic anymore. So like, yeah, it used to be that like if you had more than about a week break on your job on your resume, people wanted to know like, well, what was that? Where did you go? Blah blah. I haven't heard that quite as much. I've seen less of people asking about breaks because I think it's more common for people now to understand that a lot of us don't have a linear job progression, and that's
I
okay.
agree. Yeah, I think it's all becoming a little more just normal. And that's kind of why I'm like, is it worth calling out? Again, if you had a 2 year break or something like really significant in the amount of time, or you were doing like some boot camp upskilling thing, those are some of the reasons why I might do a very quick explanation of it. But just have somebody look at it and like look at it with that explanation and without, and just really think about if it's
Does it add or
worth
does it?
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, we are 1 minute over, but I'm gonna ask one more thing.
Yeah.
This person wants to know, is it better to be more professional or use more casual language when it comes to a cover letter? This one I've gotten at least 3 times in the last 2 weeks alone.
Hmm. I mean, I think professional kind of makes sense, but like it's paragraphs versus like resumes, bullets. So it's casual in the sense of like there should be a story and it should make sense. Honestly, the more authentic you can make it, great. But I don't know if the right word is casual. I would say it's like specific, it's authentic, things like that. So
Organic,
you want to
friendly, something
balance.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like if it's, if there's meaningful stuff that you can share, past projects, past stories, how do you relate to this role? How do you relate to this industry? What are your strengths? Why are you a fit? Like, I don't know if, yeah, I don't know if the word is casual. I think authentic, specific, still professional, but as juicy as you can make it. I think when you say casual, somebody's trying to basically say, can I show my true colors? Can I be authentic? Absolutely, but
Yeah.
still make it pointed so that they understand why you're an amazing fit. I mean, that's the goal of it, but can you try to not be generic, right? Everyone's a great problem solver and a great communicator. So try to find, again, I wouldn't call it casual, I'd call it authentic and specific, is
Yeah.
is what I'd
Something
go
that feels more authentic to you. Yeah.
for. Yeah.
All right, we have one more question. I don't think we're going to be able to answer this one but it's a very good one. Tabshish is asking about how to avoid being underpaid. A recruiter, they never say they have a budget. They never know what exactly what you should be asking for. This is always a very dicey conversation. How do you approach this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you want to only go after the roles that you think make sense for you. They are commensurate with your level, and yeah, your tenure, right? If you're not sure the salary if it's not listed, you can actually ask ChatGPT based on this company, based on this level of role, like what do you think the market range would be? And usually, it can help you with that. So, and then there's of course ways of negotiating, and that's a whole other conversation that we should have. But those are, yeah, that would be like a much bigger conversation to go into all like the negotiation best practices, but try to just not go for roles that don't make sense for you. I mean, your tenure is there for a reason. Find a commensurate fit. And, if you're going for roles that feel like they're in the ballpark of what makes sense for you, I mean, that's the initial place of just sort of targeting the right things.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody else is curious about conversations around language fusion cover letters, quotes, or any sort of like compensation conversation, we have tons and tons of chats on these. Okay, go to our main section, just search negotiation. Anything with Donna will be fabulous. Anything that Rachel is on, Oh, chef's kiss. They're wonderful chats. Please, 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 please fall down the rabbit hole. There are 6 years worth of recordings, all free, all for all of you. Okay, Rachel, I have kept you over for an extra 4 minutes. Thank you so much. I always love talking to you. I love getting to watch you just strut your stuff in front of everyone. It's my favorite. But thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise with us. I can't wait till we do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. We'll talk soon.
Heck yeah. All right, y'all, do not forget if anything that you have seen here or anything that we've talked about Woken at all piques your interest, please, please, please check it out. Hold on, let me back it up here and get you so you can check out Rachel's slide. There we go. So now you've got the pictures up there. I got links that I shared in the chat thread as well. So please, please feel free to take a look at that. Make sure you book a free call with Rachel if you're at all interested in this. I promise you she is a wealth of information. Now, if today was your first Power to Fly event, I sincerely hope that you enjoyed it and that you will be back soon. If this was your first, fifth, 400th, whatever it is, I cannot wait to see y'all back here. These always come to an end too quickly, but don't forget, everybody who registered for today's event is going to get an email about the recording when it goes live on powertofly.com. You can check out our YouTube channel. Hi, YouTube. There's a bunch of our pre-selected kind of like greatest hits there. But y'all take a look at these resources. I'm very excited to have seen so many of you out here today, especially on a Tuesday. But whether today was your first event or your 50th, I sincerely hope you will be back soon. Now, go out and have the day you voted for. And try and make somebody else's day better. Okay, let's try that. Maybe that'll be a good thing for the day. All right, y'all, go out, reward yourselves. You just took 30 minutes out of your day to do something positive for yourself and your career. That is not easy. It is not simple. So reward yourself. And until then, we'll be here. Bye, y'all.
At home, walking contradiction, got some factual and fiction. A little crazy, little sexy, little cool, little rough around the edges, but I keep it smooth. I'm always left to center